Vikas, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, tell me about how the Global Teacher Prize began.
As a foundation, the Varkey Foundation and the founder, Sunny Varkey, are very interested in the subject of teachers. His mother and father were teachers back at home in Kerala. And so when we think about having an impact in education globally, the natural start point is to look at how we can invest in teachers. So we train teachers in many parts of the world. We celebrate teachers, and the Teacher Prize is an effort to do that. But before we got to the prize, we commissioned a piece of research, which was a global teacher status index, where we looked in 21 countries what the social standing and status of teachers was. And so we collected 500,000 data points from these 21 countries, who transposed them on OECD data that looked at outcomes in classrooms. And what we found was quite interesting, that only in China are teachers held in the same esteem as doctors. Everywhere else, it's a very much equating to librarians and social workers. Now, we know from our experience that teachers say that, look, we want some of the spotlight, we want some love. And so this is a great intervention to bring all these phenomenal stories of achievement to the fore, and to start that conversation around excellence in classrooms and the work that teachers are doing all over the world.
Just to give an idea to our specific audience, how do teachers rank in parts of South Asia? I mean, what kind of findings did that throw up?
Well, our teacher status index didn't poll Asian countries on the basis that there's no OECD data for them. Right. However, as we know, if you take Indian society, the guru is a very lofty, and heralded figure. But over the last few years, just like in many other countries, it's unfair just to single out India in this regard, is that teachers have taken an absolute bashing when it comes to their status and their standing. I can't think of the last time when someone said to me, I aspire to become a teacher. I want to become a doctor, a pilot, an engineer. All these things come to the fore. When was the last time you heard or someone said to you, I want to choose teaching as a profession? Now, if we know that we give our most precious assets, our children, to schools which have teachers, wouldn't we want the best teachers in front of them? And so how are you going to get that unless they feel that they're invested in?
Now, the shortlist for the $1 million prize has already been announced. 10 teachers from around the world. Give us an idea about where they're from and the kind of work they do.
Sure. So it's actually, it's the first year of the prize. And so even when we started the journey, we were unsure as to where we would be at this stage. So it's with great relief and satisfaction, actually, I can say to you that the final 10 come from all over the world. We have a teacher from India, actually, who's made the final 10. And what she does and how she excels and what she really impressed us with was her emphasis on teaching empathy to children and design thinking of curricula. And we think that's really impressive. And that's why Kiran Sethi from Ahmedabad actually has been shortlisted to be in the final 10. But the others come from all different parts of the world. So we have a teacher from Cambodia who's more or less invented a language in Braille to teach blind children. We have a teacher in Haiti which has undergone huge havoc with the earthquake, giving hope to them. We have a teacher from Kenya who promotes female education, and if she wins the prize, she'll be buying tons and tons of sanitary towels for girls, she said, to get them into schools. Now, all of these things are worth celebrating. This prize is as much about the winner as it is about the great stories that we hear from all the other teachers. It's about role modeling for the world that this is what excellence looks like.
Yeah. I mean, $1 million is a completely life-altering amount, but there are certain conditions attached to that $1 million prize. Tell me a little bit about that and how you as a foundation would like the eventual winner to use that money.
Actually, when we were designing this prize, we spent a lot of time and effort in terms of thinking through as to how we would give this $1 million. Is it to the individual or is it to a public benefit? Now, in many countries, what happens is that people give it to a public benefit. We really wanted to give it to the teacher. And so our thinking is that whatever the teacher does, it's fine with us. This is we've selected someone who is steeped in such great values that we have to trust the teacher. And that's almost how we see it. Yeah. So we are not prescriptive as to how they use the money. We do ask the question, but we're not prescriptive. The conditions actually of the prize are that you will receive this $1 million in 10 installments. So you'll get $100,000 every year. And then the second thing is that there's this fear that you win such a prize and you immediately quit the teaching profession. And we obviously wouldn't want that to happen. We want them to continue and celebrate what they're doing in the classroom. So we've said that unless it's for natural retirement purposes, they have to stay in education for another 5 years.
Now, I know you were in the selection committee as well, and you spoke about the kind of the varied nature of the people who have been shortlisted, the shortlisted finalists. Obviously the conundrum that comes up in the selection process is the fact that teachers in different parts of the world would be working in different circumstances, in different conditions. So how do you create a measurement that is fair to all, and how do you take into account their different contexts?
So this is where when you design a prize, the criteria become the whole and soul of the prize. So we've been very clear as to how we are judging this process. It's very important for me to say that it's difficult to judge when you pick countries or when you pick teachers from countries that come from a very challenging history. So for example, when I say Afghanistan to you, immediately all these images come to your head and you think, yeah, this teacher must be great. Yeah. Where if you speak to a teacher or Haiti or Kenya or Cambodia, but when you say there's a teacher in the north of England, teaches biology, you think, well, does that really match up? But remember, this is about the Global Teacher Prize. It's not a humanitarian prize. So we've asked the Academy to judge it on that basis, assess what the excellence in the classroom is and the impact that they're having, as opposed to them being a great NGO leader or a humanitarian. That's how these 10 have surfaced as being the top 10 in our finalists.
Okay. We spoke about how the status of teachers is increasingly devalued. I grew up in a culture in Sri Lanka where we were fearful of teachers, whereas as a parent in the UK, I see the complete opposite. Where has it all kind of gone downhill, do you think? And what is lacking in terms of, particularly in a country like the UK, teachers stepping up and their status improving? Where has it gone wrong, and what does the powers that we need to do to improve that status?
I think it's a wider issue. It's not just down to the teaching profession or education. I think it's mainstream society is to blame for this in many respects, and there's many facets of it. If you just take, for example, professions such as doctors, there's so many TV programs on doctors. Doctors are celebrated. The medical profession is celebrated. In the UK, recently we've had a spurt of programs to do with schools and teaching. In other parts of the world, you don't see these things. So you don't really naturally gravitate towards a profession or think that, yeah, this could be my calling in life. Where is the inspiration? So I think media is a reflection of what society thinks. I think you will agree as a broadcaster. So one of the parts of it is to do with, well, this is how mainstream society believes it is. The second is actually to celebrate and strengthen the teaching profession. You have to look at wider education reform, and we talk about this quite extensively. And how teachers are paid, how much they're paid, what are their terms and conditions. In many parts of the world, forget the fact that they are paid a very low salary. Actually, they don't actually get paid on time. So in that situation, you have teacher absenteeism in schools, and they blame the teachers. How can that be the case? How are you meant to work for passion if you can't even fill your stomach? And so there are massive issues around the teaching profession, but it's not the teacher. It's an entire system that needs to be geared up and looked at.
The actual the foundation itself, it's attracted the support of people like Kevin Spacey and Bill Clinton, so on, and so Deputy Mayor of London as well, and so forth. But ultimately, the crucial support that it needs to draw is from governments and administrations in countries like Haiti, in countries like India, in countries like Sri Lanka, isn't it? And what kind of work are you doing with governments? And going forward, what are the next aims of the foundation?
It's really interesting you ask this question. So when you think about the prize, and we started off, if you look at the journey of the prize, it's flabbergasting as to what's happened. So since we announced the top 50 in December, we've had the Prime Minister of Italy call upon the 2 or 3 finalists from Italy and invite them to his Ed Reform Summit, and he's written op-ed in a national newspaper about the importance of teaching. The Prime Minister of Malaysia has tweeted about the excellence of this one teacher from Malaysia. We've had Queen Rani of Jordan celebrate teaching. We've had the Dutch Ministry of Education film a documentary on the teacher from Netherlands. We have so many examples, and recently the Pope met with 3 of the finalists. So it's picking up momentum, and what we have is a conversation starting as to how we view teaching and the ways in which we can reinforce it. So that, I think, is the most important thing.